Last month, we told you that Canon would have a big announcement in July, that it could be the Canon EOS R7 Mark II or the R6 Mark III. But with the first week of July over, are we still on schedule for a big announcement? I've got the update that you've been looking for, but first, please punch that subscribe button. It takes just a second and means an awful lot to us, and it tells the YouTube algorithm that maybe, just maybe, you're not here by mistake. Hi, I'm Simon, your friendly photographic correspondent that trawls through the rumor mill so that you don't have to. And if you've ever tried decoding Canon's product strategy over the past few years, you'll know it's a bit like trying to predict the weather with divining rods. But thankfully, I've got an update on that big Canon announcement that we mentioned just last month. We told you that a Canon EOS R series camera is coming out in July, but we didn't have any further details. And when this same source wasn't able to provide me with any new information, well, I tried a few other sources, kind of like a desperate wedding photographer begging for better weather. Sadly, silence. But today, we've heard from a well-known source saying that there will be a major Canon product announcement at the end of August. This has historically been a time of the year that Canon unveils multiple products at once, though things have been somewhat different in the last few years. And yes, somewhat different is one way of describing it. It's kind of like 2024. Do you remember the beginning of the year? We were supposed to get that R5 Mark II and R1 announcement. Then it moved to May, and then July, where we did get the announcement, but the R1 didn't start shipping until the end of November. The R5 Mark II and the R1 announcements were kicked down the road more times than a flat football. So are you really surprised that this July big reveal is now looking to be August? I'm not. But you certainly heard this big camera announcement by Canon here first. But that being said, the whole point of this video is, what are we expecting? The R6 Mark III? The Canon EOS R7 Mark II? Or perhaps a Canon full-frame toaster with a dual-slot crumb tray? But in all seriousness, the EOS R6 Mark II was announced back on November the 2nd, 2022, and the R7 earlier that year on May the 24th. For a competitive segment that includes cameras like the Sony a7 IV and other popular APS-C cameras by the same manufacturer as well as Nikon, these cameras are due for a refresh. So we think we could see both cameras, not just the R6 Mark III and the R7 Mark II. We think we could see both cameras at this announcement, as we said last month. Now the R7, in terms of announcements back in 2022, was announced along with a sidekick, the Canon EOS R10. However, the R6 Mark II got its own event, and it was in November. And then the Mark I, well, it was announced again, I guess it was the sidekick to the Canon EOS R5 back in 2020. All of which adds up to a rather sensible conclusion. It's time for an announcement. It's time for a refresh. Now, no one has slipped me some sort of briefing document on which camera will be announced, but Canon isn't too hard to get a read on. They could certainly release an R7V or an R6V. These are two popular cameras we keep hearing about in the rumor mill. They're a more video-centric version of the underlying R6 Mark III and R7 Mark II. But announcing those two cameras without their next-gen cameras that they're based off of, the R7 II and the R6 III, seems unlikely at best. It's like announcing a sequel without releasing the original film, although that's exactly what happened with Troll 2. There was never a Troll 1, and Troll 2 was voted as the worst movie of all time, so much so that a documentary was created about it. And I gotta tell you, I would actually skip to the documentary before watching the movie Troll 2. It's that bad. Anyhow, back to our story of the day. There's also murmurs of a new PowerShot camera, which would not be unexpected or unwelcomed. And of course, there's the perennial speculation about a G-series revival, or even an R8 refresh, a model that feels like it was born yesterday but has already reached the toddler age in camera years, and of course, a video-centric version of that camera as well. Still, if I had to put my own battered coffee-stained press badge on the table, I'd say the most likely outcome is rather simple, and I think you see it too. And that's the R7 Mark II and the R6 Mark III, arriving fashionably late but not without precedent. We are due for some good news, and I've got a budget for one more big spend here in 2025. Canon, if you don't give me the R7 Mark II in August, I'll have to settle for another MacBook Air, perhaps a 15-inch version. And so you might think that that's a complete and utter tangent, but it's not. You see, I just got back from spending a week in Vancouver, and I had a great time. One of the things I realized is, with my eyes going now, a 13-inch laptop is just not the perfect thing for travel. But a 15-inch MacBook Air would be, well, more than enough power for doing the odd video on the go, and also editing on the plane or in the hotel or on the beach. I do need something a little bit bigger, and there hasn't been enough announcements this year to really invest my money. I think the last thing I bought was, what lens was it? The 50mm f1.4. Although I did invest well in Vancouver. So I want to tell you about, I'm going to tease a little bit out over the next coming weeks. I actually went on one of those helicopter tours. Now, there's a company called Sky Helicopter, and I reached out to them. Vancouver's one of those climates where you don't know what the weather's going to be, and it could change halfway through the day. So what I did was I just went down to the helipad and I called them up and I said, look, do you have anything available for that day? And they said, yeah, we do. And it was $269. That's for a 30-minute helicopter ride. I was pretty impressed. And their helicopters with panoramic views was simply perfect. Sky Helicopter didn't tell me what to say here. I'm not getting paid, and after this video's published, I probably won't even hear from them. And when I encounter other small businesses that go the extra mile, I like to shout it out. I'd like to say thanks, and if you're in Vancouver, check them out. So all in, $269 for the helicopter ride after taxes and all that stuff out the door, $291 Canadian. So US dollars, you're under $200. That's less than some memory cards. I had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and I'm giving them a shout out just because I think they're a terrific business. In Vancouver, which is a very expensive city, to operate a helicopter tour, a 30-minute helicopter tour for under $300 Canadian after taxes out the door, I think is a really, really good deal. But in my next video, I'm going to talk about another excursion I went on. Do you guys like whale watching? Well, if so, join me for my next video, which will probably come out in a couple of days. And if you'd like to know the 1%, if you're one of the 1% of the 1% that wants to know a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes, then click join and consider joining my insider membership level, where I take you behind the scenes of what goes on when I'm out in the field like Vancouver, when I'm doing reviews. And if you want to have answers to questions in a video format, well, that's one of the other benefits you get as an insider. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.